Good morning, everyone, and happy to welcome you all to the session 4, which is around curating public experiences. And we were thrilled to receive Banshan's response just about the time when we finalized the schedule, and we said, "Okay, perfect. We have the right person with us, talking to us on the 4th day of this workshop." To introduce Banshan. Banshanlang Marwein is a freelance writer and researcher. His interest revolves around socio-political issues in Meghalaya, particularly looking through the grassroots lens, international relations, United Nations, and Indian foreign policy. Graduated in IA from Sikkim University and submitted his M.Phil Dissertation in 2016 in JNU, New Delhi. He has previously interned with Doctors Without Borders and also taught in Tirot Memorial Higher Secondary School. Apart from academic papers in the Political Anvil, World Focus, Asian Journal of Advanced Studies, he regularly writes for the Highland Post and has contributed to newsclick.in, riot.in, velivera.com, the Shillong Times, among many others. And apart from this formal introduction, the reason we reached out to Banshan was very early on in our research, we came across the Khalam archive, which has looked at archiving the pandemic from Meghalaya. And we said, okay, this is like a prototype initiative, for us who are starting out now to look at pandemic in India. And through contacts and various configurations, as you would try, we came to know that Banshan had also worked with Northeast Archive, especially on the pandemic archiving project. And hence we reached out to him. So thank you so much, Banshan, for accepting our invitation, making time for us. And I'm quite thrilled personally that such a different profile of experience is with us on board, because otherwise we all usually reach out to artists and creative practitioners, because that's the network we come with. So with your experience and then how you engaged with the archive is going to be something quite new for all of us as a dialogue. So we're very happy to have you here, and we look forward to knowing more about your experience. Just to quickly run everyone through the format of these 2 hours. So we'll hear Banshan, and then would want to interact with him first on his experience of archiving the pandemic. And from there, we move on to a few exercises for ourselves in terms of looking at curating public experience, and then we discuss as a group about those exercises. So over to you, Banshan.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure for me also to be sharing my work or my experiences throughout pandemic, especially with regards to my project I did with the Northeast AV Archive. Last year, so I came home, basically I stay in Delhi, but I came home because of the situation back in Delhi. And then I was just, because I keep on photographing about activities every day. So in June, July, there was a call for artists to document the pandemic. I was just wondering that is a very interesting project that I should be doing, because as far as my interest is concerned, especially when we look at the pandemic in terms of the rural people, they hardly get the voice in the mainstream or in the public domain. So I was just wondering, what if I start some kind of a project or some kind of archiving the experiences that the people in the villages are having. So basically, this project that the Northeast AV Archive are doing, they have a bunch of a number of varieties or artists, be it photographers, videographers, poets, and there are a lot of activities. So in my case, since I have experiences with writing, and also at the same time I'm very much interested in trying to archive the whatever possible, especially when it comes to small things which we don't realize that these are important aspects in the coming maybe in coming 50 years, who knows, right? So I got this idea that, okay, since nobody talks about the experiences of the people in the village, why can't I just give a proposal on the basis of this? So when I got the news that, okay, they selected my proposal, I was thrilled and excited, because firstly, it's not because I will be part of the project. Firstly, because people from the margins will be in the archive. Will People will read about them, because most of the time, I remember now, since we talk about it, I remember in March and April, there was so much call for SOS that in Delhi there was a lack of oxygen and all of that. But suddenly in May, right, in May, June, there was my WhatsApp groups, there was no call for it. Because why? The villages has started, coronavirus has started to go on to the villages, and in the villages nobody will report, right? So so last year was not as worse as this year. So when I started my journey for the project, I first and foremost, I went obviously to the news items that has already been there. If you would read all these news items and go to the field also, you will feel so connected, or you would felt so engaged with these people, because they have a different way to tell a story about how they experience pandemic. For them, they don't understand what is COVID-19. For them, they will just listen to what the government, or what the headman or the leaders in the community they are saying. So I have come across so many interesting stories. One of the stories that I come across was to ensure that social distancing is followed. The community asked the people, whoever goes to shops, to banks, to use umbrella. That's that. I mean, I've although some people told me that there are some in some villages in Kerala, I think they did this, but this idea has got me like, okay, this is very interesting, because at that point of time, it was in May, I think. It happened that people have not even ready to accept or ready to practice social distancing. Okay, so other stories, such as when I visit to many villages, so I meet these kids who are in class 4, 5, or 6. I was just talking to them like, why aren't you going to school? Where is your school and all of that? They said, oh, it's the virus. I asked them, do you know what virus is? They don't know. They just saying that it's virus, and it's Khalam. Khalam means pandemic. So I was talking to them. Okay, what do you do then during this pandemic? They told me, four of them, they are brothers and sisters, siblings. They told me, okay, we spend this pandemic with the cows, with the sheeps in the in the mountains. I was like, okay, oh, so for them I would say it's a blessing, because I call them, okay, so what happens if there is school time? My mom takes care of it, but now my mom could go to the field so that she could take care of the crops and uh, in the farming. So I was wondering, like, so this pandemic, in a way, for the villagers, more, especially for students, right? They were able to help their parents. They were able to help their at home, especially in terms of especially when it comes to these animals and all that. For taking care of them. And also like so when because I went there just to ensure that I get to talk to them and all that. So it was I think it was around 11 or 12. They just relaxed themselves, and all of a sudden they were jumping in the river, and they were just so much fun. There is no tension of the problem with pandemic. I mean, for them, wearing masks and everything, it's like, because virus at that time was not present in the villages. um, so other stories which I also come across that this was in the news, that there is this girl who is in BA. She Since the pandemic has hit really hard for the family, so they started juice to make juice. She Before the pandemic happened, she has already trained. So because at that time it was around August, it was around July, August. So there are so many fruits which is ready to be sold in the market. So as we have seen in the news, I'm sure you guys also have seen in the news. I've also seen in the news that many fruits or vegetables has been thrown away because they cannot sell them. So interestingly, this girl who is in BA, she's a BA girl. She started this idea of making juice and also getting the permission to deliver it. We don't have online delivery, but you have to get permission, go house to house. And after that news broke, everyone was like, wow, this is very interesting. Which when I talked to one of the teachers in other school, that is other school, I was talking to them like, so this pandemic, as we talk about the vocal for local, I think it is the right time for many students, especially those students who come from outside, especially in terms of food, in terms of people who are an expert in food products, making food and all of that. I was talking to her. This teacher is a teacher who teach in a school with the handicap. I was talking to her like, how do you deal with them during this time? So she was telling me that there are so many activities that these kids were doing during the pandemic, especially the kids, because for them, no, when you teach them, you also teach with activities, because teaching the handicap students without activity it's not for them. It's like it's a good experience. So I was telling them like, in fact, this pandemic has actually helped them in, how do you call it? I don't know in English. It's called mula. It's like a chair. No, they stitch the clothes, and they were doing so many things during the pandemic. But the problem is they lack what you call support, because very few who would get support from many sources. So I was keep talking with the teacher that to be in the village, to talk about online classes, and first of all, we don't have a proper electricity. Electricity, it's a joke. Like, you don't even have a proper electricity, let alone a laptop, or let alone an internet. So I was telling, how do you deal with the students during such time? She was telling me that what we do is sometimes we go to their house. If we are close by, we go to their house, or we just ask them to come, and then they will just help the students to, because obviously at the same time the students are also facing the problem with food, with the basic necessity. Not only education. For them, education is secondary, because as I told you, the village kids, instead of going to school now, they were able to help at home. And but that's not in the mainstream. So I was like, this is a very good story that to tell people around, so that the world will know that somewhere in West Khasi Hills, Meghalaya, there are people who actually kind of this pandemic for the students has been able to help the family, their own family, right? Also, I was talking with the community leaders. We call it the Dorbarshnong. Uh, I think it's, if there is no Dorbarshnong in Meghalaya, I think everything will be a disaster, because they have been very effective. Whatever the notice comes from the government, the Dorbarshinong or the village council will ensure that the protocols are followed. Because uh, I was talking to them that, okay, how are you ready to, in case there is a disaster, like around hundreds of people get COVID in a night, how do you respond to that? They were okay, we are ready to do it, because first and foremost, we by nature, we are ready to help. We are ready because we know them personally. Sometimes in my, even in my own locality, I don't know them personally, because I hardly stay back. It's been while that I don't stay back, but they were explaining to me that this pandemic has shown the humility that human has towards other people. Let's not talk about the politicians, because the politicians will have their own agenda. But set that aside, we could see that communitarian spirit, it's enforced, it's in the public, that you would see every day, that even yesterday, one of my where the organization where I'm engaging with, they went to villages to ensure that the families are not sleeping without food. So I keep talking with them when I talk with the family, with the community leaders. So how do you deal with funerals, not COVID funerals, not COVID death, but normal death? How do you deal with them? Although restrictions are there, but people wants to go and visit, because the Khasi are tribes in Meghalaya, right? The Khasi culture, when it comes to funeral, it's like you have to go. Even if you are not family members, you have to go, because to show sympathy, not only to show sympathy, to celebrate, especially to celebrate that person's life. I went to a couple of funerals around that time. It was kind of strange, because you have to write your name, you have to sanitize, and you don't stay much for long, and you have to eat food also if you go to a Khasi funeral. For the family, they will just stay for a week more. They will stay for the whole night to ensure that this person will rest in peace. So what they do, those people who are not able to go to the houses of to the house of mourning, they will just send money, like money, not as in money, but that is like a gratitude or a kind of a respect, to pay respect to that person, and as well as the family who has lost. As it's like showing love to the person that we have lost. So they or sometimes as I ask them, how do you deal with that? We ask people, the houses, to put the bucket, or to put a box to put the money or whatever people will give them, because there are many people who wants to go because of corona, because of the pandemic, they are not able to go. I think if we talk about pandemic, and also the house of mourning, I think it has really impacted the Khasi culture also, because Khasi culture, especially in the villages, we have had so many deaths in my own family also. It's part and parcel of how we come to know about our own family members, relatives. We share our love. It's part and parcel. But that kind of love or respect, that kind of knowledge that we have to our own family has gone down to, I don't know. We just hope that these kind of experiences, or especially during the funeral, the house of mourning and all that will just, this pandemic will just go, and then people will be back to what they do earlier, especially in terms of be with the house of the funeral and all of that. So while I keep talking with them, they were saying that what if somebody get COVID from your locality, but he is not from you. He is not permanently from here. Who just came here for work or for study. What will you do? I said that is our duty to ensure that every other people who are in the town or who are in the village will get the maximum care that we could do. Although we don't have ambulance at that time, they don't have ambulance, but we obviously will fix them. And that reflects a lot about how in the village people have been so passionate about doing what they love to do. And I remember since April, then now they have started again to have these quarantine centers. So whoever comes from outside the town or outside the state, they have to be in the quarantine center. I was asking, but who funds these quarantine centers and all of that? That's from they said that this is from the village council fund. How do you get that fund? People themselves started to crowdfund. We don't even need the online funding that we have we have in the cities and all. People, they give them money because they wanted to. They don't hate people who comes back home, but they want to ensure that the virus does not spread to the community that they are already there. Okay. Although obviously stigma here and there will be there, especially when somebody get caught of COVID and all of that. But then at the same time, because of the sensitization each and every day, the announcement that each and every day that people keep getting. I was when I went to one of the villages where I've been there maybe 20 years back. When I went, it's almost the same. I mean, the road also is better, but everything is almost the same. It's all greenery. Everything is there. I was talking to this person who is engaging with, who is also having a pharmacy. So I was asking him how does people do people comes often as much as they have been coming before the pandemic to buy medicines. And firstly he said there is no car to come and buy medicine. Only people who are from 1 kilometer of my village, they could come and they could come and buy medicines and stuff like that. But how do you ensure that these people are not well or are okay? He was telling me, I think this pandemic has taught, even this person tell me, I think this pandemic has taught the people themselves to teach themselves how to take care of their health. Right. I mean, even myself also, that's my personal experience also. We have been ensuring that we don't get sick, because if we get sick, then what will happen, especially in the cities, it will be a disaster. And also at the same time, although in the village, the weather is good and air and everything is good, but still, he said that it's much better now because there is no car. There is no there is no car, and he himself, instead of patients come to his pharmacy, he went to their house because he has a car, right? And he has the pass also because he has a shop, right? People cannot and so I was wondering as to okay, even if you have the pharmacy and then you go, that's kind of the spirit that these people in the villages has so much to to care for each other. They don't care much about whether you have to spend your car or your money or not, but to ensure that people are they get the best of care from because this person, he is like a nurse. I mean, in the I was shocked to like, are you a nurse or are you trained nurse? But he said no. But since I keep getting the what you call the idea from the doctors which I meet, friends and all that, I could take care of them. I mean, like, okay, that since that village that I went, um, it's like from Shillong, it's around 3 hours, and their whole road is horrible. So how there is no dispensary nearby. So to ensure that people get to ensure that they get they get the care from people who are supposed sadly to be in the hospital and all that, but he get the care from such people who are not, but they know how, because although that's illegal in a way, but that's all how it happens. I remember, since I went along with my friend who is also into pharmacy. He wants to deliver drugs and all that. He needs to give money. Okay, so what happened? There is no ATM. I said, but how do you manage to give people money every day, especially if you need it? You need to give it right now. I don't have options. He said, I have to travel 40 kilometers to take the money from the ATM. I don't have option. That's how it happens. And sometimes, even if you travel 40 kilometers, that ATM might not have money. And might not have money. So these kind of stories that village people have, it's crazy. You want to give money to the person whom you bought something, like I think it was a huge money. He has to fortunately he used the check. He don't even understand properly as to how to use the check and all of that. And interestingly, he said, if you have deposit this check, please let me know, because hardly we receive messages about transferring and all of that. So I've been living in the city for so many years. I mean, if I remember the time when I meet this person, I was telling him that, okay, so your story of pandemic is like crazy. Like, people are worried about not having internet, or slow internet. We could not watch some series in Netflix or in Prime, whatever. And you guys are worried about how to withdraw money so that you can buy rice. Oh no, they don't have to buy rice. Interestingly, because uh, when I just go outside, it's all greenery. It's all green. That is rice. So in the month of November, they'll just harvest that. They don't have to buy rice. They don't have to buy vegetables, fruits. They don't have okay, oil have to buy, obviously, and they don't have to buy gas because they have their own wood. It's firewood. Um, so I came back. And the other day I went to. He's a friend also. At the same time, I went to visit his farm. So I was talking to the person who takes care of the farm, because it was late in the evening, so there was no current. Like to 1 hour also no current. To at that time my mobile was around 15%. I need to record something. I need something for in my mobile. But said it's been 3 hours. There is no. I mean, sometimes the whole night also there is no electricity. Interestingly, the person who just started that farm, he said that he lost around 20,000 because he thought that he would be able to invest in this, but I have lost it. And he started to approach the government, to approach the NABARD, NABARD. in the block development officer that to give him some kind of loan. And so okay, interestingly, he what he said to me is, basically people are not ready to take loans because they don't know much about, they don't understand. Nobody tells them the right direction or the right information that they need in the villages. So but he said that I'm ready to take care of them. I'm ready to help people to ensure that if you have the loan, you will obviously you have to pay back, or obviously you have to, uh, he formed a kind of a union for farmers to, especially we rear pigs. They rear pigs, right? So they will get a handsome loan that could sustain their, that the kind of a small business. So he said that, it's very sad in the villages, although people have, they might have a place, or they might have a space to rear pigs, to have cows, or to, goats, sheep, and whatnot. But then they don't know the way how to get things done. They might have a space, they might know farming, but they don't know. So I told him, I think it's time, we teach them where to get things done, how to get things done. And interestingly, somehow it has helped, around 10, 15, 20 villages to ensure that, okay, they get the right information that they needed the most. You see, even if you have your own farm and you have your own, your own pigs, chicken, and all of that around that time, but then you cannot sell that because nobody are ready to, and there is no festival, there is no kind of feast that is happening. They have to sell it in a low price. They have to sell it in a low price. Instead of, I remember, because I keep going along with people who are in the job, who know things, right? Around that time when I was doing my project. So we went, they are ready to sell, like, at a not very cheap rate though, but they are ready to sell whatever the customers are asking them. We eat a chicken or stuff like that. So I, around, it was, I think it was in September. It was in September that this MG and REGS, they started to again for the work. So people again, so though not everyone are into farming, that's, we should not be, or not everyone are having all the jobs that they need. So this MG and REGS has helped so many families because the wages has increased from some 300 to 400 per day. So that's quite a huge amount. I mean, for daily wage is not really huge, but that's fair amount, right? Because you don't have to work so like 9 to 5, but there is they started at 9:30, then they end at 3:30 or 4. So it's kind of not so heavy work. Also, it has really helped them, because for them, even women also, they are not able to go for cleaning the clothes. They are not able to go to as maids, right? Because even the house owner also are not ready to take them, not because of the fear of the virus, but because their business also has gone down. So but in a way, this MG and REGS in the villages has really helped families, especially those family who rely or who depend on daily wage. Although they were able to go to their farms, they were able to go to their daily activities, which they used to do, daily activities as in gardens, farm, and all of that. But then when it comes to money, because you go to the farm, you don't get money. You, instead of money, you get the raw material, right? But how will you turn that raw material into money? It's difficult, right? Unless and until somebody buys it. Interestingly, there are unions or organizations which help these farmers to trade or to sell, or they went to villages take these vegetables to sell it. I mean, it's like they have only sold the vegetables, they have only sold the fruits, so they're able to sell them to whatever these organizations are doing. Uh, so see, in the city we would be having, especially I don't see them having problem with COVID-19, right? I mean, although they will ask you to wear masks, or they will, there is a mention about mask, social distancing, but then virus has not reached the villages at that time. And also, they're well aware, because thankfully, thank, ah, thankfully, this YouTube has really helped even the villages also. Although I said the internet is very bad, but there are some villages which they somehow get the internet right, or sometimes they were able to send through friends, and they were able to download. So the YouTube has really helped people to get informed. In 2 years, or in 1 year, there was no interest in, and they don't even know what is YouTube. But thankfully, these local media, these news channel, they have been able to cover, although not stories from the villages, but at least what is happening in the city, what is happening in the state, what is the government doing, how much money, how is the government planning to. It's like a good information for them. In some villages, if the village headman wants to announce something, they will just shout uh, from the top of the, kind of a small hill, or top of somewhere. I myself have experienced that. I live in a 10 years back, they used to shout, but now, since the place where I stay, it keeps increasing, the people keep increasing, so they use the PA system. But in typical villages, people will just use their, how do you call it, in Khasi we call it sangot, or the person who do the announcement. But there is no system, there is no PA system. So I guess you guys also must have come across this, which is interesting. And because half of the people will not have a smartphone, or even more. Maybe their kids, or maybe the kids who are in school or in colleges, they might have phones, but they don't have phone, because for them it is not a necessity, right? For them, the main agenda is to ensure that people, their children get the food that they needed the most, right? uh, in the last few days, I went we went to help families, and all that. It's very difficult to look at them, because they really don't have something to eat. Not to cover, not to no. Let's not even talk about electricity. They don't even have food to eat. So interesting. Fortunately, there are people who are ready to help, who are ready to ensure that people don't go to sleep without having food, and without food, and all of that. So this entire pandemic has taught a lesson, not only to many people, but also has reflected the kind of lessons that we could hear. It reflects that the people in the margins, uh, they have their own stories to tell. They have their own experiences. They don't need to they don't need many shops to be open for them once a week, because for them, they will come to market once a week. Okay, let me tell you one interesting story. Not a story, it's my observation. So like I said, they will come to the market once a week, buy everything. They buy everything they need, rice and everything they need, right? Even meat also. Do you know why? Do you know why we have, why in the villages they have smoked pork? I mean, smoked pork, smoked meat it's popular. Why? Because they don't have fridge. Firstly, they don't have fridge. Secondly, they don't have shops nearby, right? That's how it happens. Like we don't need a fridge. They don't need a fridge also because it's not hot. It's the weather. It's not so bad. So and also like for them coming to the market, it's like so exciting. Very, it's like coming to the city, like full dress and all that. It's like meeting friends, meeting, or trying to get some help from, somebody who is having money. See, they have rice in their, whatever the stock they have fruits, they have everything, but they don't have money. They don't have money. So for them, they need money. But like I said earlier, for people who really don't have anything, they they depend. So the flow of money, it has exponentially decreased because the person who have rice, okay, the person who have rice, they are not able to sell it. Red rice. When I say rice here, it means red rice, which is costlier than the white rice. Okay. Or they are not able to cook, to make snacks. So it means the flow of money is not there. Okay. Which means that the person, this family who used to hire people for the farming, they're not able to hire anymore because they don't have money, because the money does not come to this family who have farm, or who have lands, or who have. So what I'm trying to say here is that although we may say that in the villages they have vegetables, they have everything, but then there is no market. So during the lockdown, very first lockdown, March, April, May, uh, what happens was in small villages they started to open the I would call it a makeshift market, that they sell everything, from clothes to, everything they sell, because the village administration has started to give permission so that people will not go outside of the villages. Secondly, they don't have options to go to village because it's closed. It's Everything is closed, right? So I was talking to this person. He said, actually, this lockdown has somehow proof, or has somehow helped this our village to stand on our own. We have been actually everything. See, our own village people go to sell their stuff back there, and then our same village, they go and buy from the same person from the village. Why? I mean, this time around we have our own everything needed for grocery. We have in our own village everything needed for shoes or anything, we have in our own village. So this somehow this pandemic has actually helped support the local market in such a way that uh, it has become a habit to keep supporting each other. It might be small. It's the smallest help that they could get. He even said that actually after this pandemic we would talk to the government to open what you call a market, which sabzi mandi market kind of, right? A sabzi mandi market, because it's far away from the city. So what if why not having a sabzi mandi market? Because all the vegetables and everything will be there. So people will just people, or the traders, or the people who are into business will come here to buy our stuff that we have taken from various villages. So I was wondering that this pandemic has not only taught people, normal people, has even taught these leaders who have been pressured actually, because if you are leading, if you are into governance administration, you are pressure to think, you are pressure to to have a focused mind and how to handle with the emergent situation. So he even said that like this pandemic has taught many lessons. Even even though he called himself BA matlab, I'm foolish, or I told him, no, you're not you're not a fool, or you're just okay, like you're just normal as everyone. But he said that even what he's trying to say, even though I'm not educated, but this pandemic has taught many lessons, thanks to media, or thanks to a lot of factors that has contributed to such people with so much knowledge as to how to handle the situation. Because that village, if I have to mention, the village also has a hospital there, right? Uh, has a hospital there. They need to ensure that they are afraid of also at the same time, because it's hospital and it's COVID and it's so they are afraid that, okay, what if we have to be very careful, we have to go to the hospital and tell them that to sanitize the hospital, to keep it clean, so that we don't have to face the problem. And it's interesting because people who are not educated, right? People who are not educated, they know how to handle the situation. How much more will it be for people who are educated? But sometimes educated people are, we would call it educated fools, because they will just throw the garbage from their BMW, or from their expensive cars and whatnot. We have to learn from people from the villages. So over the course of my journey, I was thinking, we have heard of the term think globally, act locally, right? How about think locally, act globally? Let's for a second think about it. Think locally, act globally. Let me give you an example. To take care of the nature, who are always against development, like dams or whatnot? The people the indigenous people, or the village people, who will stand against such kind of activities, right? So because it's their land, it's like it's their life in itself. So that idea of think globally, act locally, I think it's like a top-down approach. So if you have to work in the grassroots, you have to think locally, right? Although I'm not saying that everything that the locals or the people at the grassroots are always right, but then if you try to rationalize it, observe it properly, like I said earlier, why people they use this smoked meat, simply because they don't have they don't have the luxury that rich people would have, right? Or they don't have what in the city would have. So they would use the fire and everything as such. And also, see, we would have this we would people from the cities, or from metropolitan cities, very educated, highly educated, they will teach a lot of things to the people in the village, but they don't try to understand the problems in their context. They will, like, that happens even from the government also. They don't try to understand the problems from the village perspective, of the village context. They comes to, like, do this, like, from the top, like, you have to do this, the farming has to be done like this, or this thing has to be done like this. There is no ground report, or there is no ground or grassroots kind of understanding to ensure that these people will have the kind of help. Suppose if you you say that you give water to them, right? You give mineral water. They will tell that, no, mineral water is not, it's not for us, because the water that we get from the spring is much better than your mineral water. So we have to understand the problems from their perspective, which I guess in no time, I think the locals will themselves let the locals speak for themselves. If you need to be with them, just listen to them, just talk to them, just give them space so that they will be able to share what they want to do. And if you think that that's very wrong, then you let them understand, you let them think so many ways. So um, that's it. I think what I wanted to say. There are so many problems actually in terms of with the students. Um some teachers have been very helpful for their students. They went to their houses, or they either call the students, or I've told them, why don't you start a YouTube channel, teach the students, teach in local language. And I've given to few of the teachers. See, they teach far away. They have to go far away from the village. Imagine, in one of the villages that I went, the road, I'm not sure if you guys like to travel in off road, but I would still remember that was memorable. It was raining. First of all, it was raining. Secondly, the road was so bad, and I was telling the people, do cars come this way? I said, this is normal, and then we are used to such road. And but as far as we are concerned, I think what is more important is to survive. Although road is important, we would be happy to get the access to road, to get the access to transport, to electricity, to lot of things. But then we don't want to suffer also in later period. Uh, I think that's it. And if you have any question, maybe we can discuss much more when we have a kind of an engagement. Uh, Thank you.
Thank you so much, Banshan. As much as I said earlier that we were looking forward to this session because it would be a shift, I don't think I was expecting such a big shift in terms of, just to give you context, the last conversation we had was about dealing with emotions. And we were really talking about some tough emotions that everybody has gone through, whether it's helplessness, whether it is fear or frustration or loss. So I think we've sort of touched upon the grim side of the pandemic, and what you did today for us is open up a side which is for sure there in each one of us, but needed to be reminded is this deepened gratitude for how much we can adapt and do things together if we come together as a community or as a collective. Um,
Collective.
so, I mean, and also the fascination that sort of arises when you think about, as you kept clarifying for us, villages, right? So you think they are deprived, you think they'll be in more difficult situations, and sure, monetarily or in terms of aspirations, they might have found difficulties, but at least they were not so fumbled as perhaps we were when the pandemic, affected the first time. Is the sense I'm getting from your conversation, that they found their ways, or really had their ways, which were just perfectly suited in terms of addressing a situation like the pandemic. So I have two questions for you, and then, of course, in the meanwhile, if everyone else can pitch in their questions in the chat, we all can chat with you for about 15 minutes and then move on to the next exercise. One, I wanted to know from you what has been the situation this year, because last year, as you rightly said, the virus had not reached the villages, and this year the scene is a little different. So if you have been collecting more stories this year, or if you have any idea on that. And second question I had is, what is going to happen to this archive? Because I understand on Khalam's website, they have mentioned that they're still going to update it. So I wanted to know, how is your project going to be curated and presented on the digital platform? Are they going to be written stories? Are they going to be audiovisual recordings or any other format?
Thank you so much for it's very interesting question. At present, the virus has spread to villages also, no doubt, because of the movement of people, because of the activities that keeps happening every day, and also because of I mean, we across India we have seen that it's kind of tough, and like I said earlier, the moment you get to report something which somebody get COVID, or somebody is infected by the COVID, or close contact with the person who is infected by COVID. In a way, I think it's easier in the villages because it's a close community again. This morning only I think yesterday only I come to know that somebody in one of the villages get caught with COVID. So that kind of location, or the locality, small few houses have been uh, quarantined, or have been announced as micro containment zone. Like our organization that I involved with, they also went to, if there are houses which they think they need the support, the ration support, the grocery support, they will just go to them and distribute them in terms of food, right? Because especially if the member of the family is infected, the member of the family who happens to be the bread owner, who happens to be the person who actually helped the family in terms of food and everything. For this, I have written for the Khalam archive, for Northeast AV archive. I have submitted my document. I have submitted my written papers, two papers actually. I'm not sure if they have uploaded in their website, or maybe they might have in their office itself. Basically, I think they will have in the website. I think they will upload in the website, because after all, that's so that people will be able to get access to it, right? Not only in my case, maybe in my case, it's a paper people will not be that much interested to read, maybe. But if it's a video, or it's photographs, I have photographs. I could have shown you, but there is some technical problem with my presentation. I would have shown you some photographs which I clicked. I also I also did some photo story of the pandemic in one of the website. Maybe I'll share that. Meanwhile, let me check if they still have. I have photo stories also, which, because for personally, I like to also not only tell stories in written as an article, but I like to tell stories with a photo also, right? Because that's because anything which is visual, especially when it comes to archive, it's interesting. It's in itself it's fascinate whoever would access to that story, or to that archive. So if you that's it, they will definitely, I think they will definitely post it in their website.
So I think it was my
Thank you.
mistake. I didn't know how to navigate. Sanjana has been able to find the paper, so she shared it in the chat. So that is there. And yes, if you can share the photo stories with us, that would also be very interesting for us to, I think, sort of associate with the visual.
Can you just type there, Feli Bada? Just 1 second, okay? Really?
Give to me a chat. Maybe.
I've got it. I got the link. Just 1 second.
Okay.
Just 1 second. I think you.
In the meanwhile, if anybody else has questions, you can raise your hand or write in the chat. So we can call upon you, pass on the mic.
Ishta, I have a question first. Can you all
Yes,
hear me?
Pallavi, go on.
Yeah. So hi. Basically, I wanted to know. So, I don't think my video is on, right? Is it on? Because there's some
Fine. It's
internet
fine.
problem. So obviously when you were going to the villages and talking to people and collecting stories, so last year it would have been easier because the effect of virus was definitely less. But but this year when you're collecting stories, do you think that people are kind of scared to meet you or something, or like they're interacting less, or has the difficulty of collecting stories and interviewing people increased in any way, or yeah?
Yes. Yes. Even my case also, like although right now I'm just collecting it for my. I mean, I'm just observing, not necessarily collecting, observing it in my interest, because I keep it's interesting to keep telling people also. Myself also, I have to be careful because you don't want to get sick, right? People don't want to get sick basically. And also, if they come to know that you come from a containment zone, then it's a no. You will be like, no, containment zone. First of all, we are not allowed to leave, to even leave the place. Or if that containment zone has been declared earlier, so they will say, oh, this person comes from a containment zone, we can't trust, we can't. There is that perception among the people also, because they themselves also are kind of afraid, or they don't want to get sick basically. So yes, there is a change perception also, because it has reached to each and every corner of the state. But then uh, I think in the month of May, I think, first week of May, we went to that for our trekking. People are not wearing masks, or people are not. I mean, because they know their own people, right? They know each other. They never go out of the town or of the village and all that. And it's they there is the virus has never heard of in the village. So that kind of trust, the but for us, we have to ensure that, if we go to such village, or we go to a new village, new town, or new place, we have to be careful. I mean, there is that perception also that, okay, these people are not from our village, so obviously they themselves. Uh, but I think by today people have been more curious, more conscious about what is actually happening, especially in Meghalaya. The cases in the past 1 month has been drastically, has been exponentially increased. That's on almost every other day. But then in the past 1 week, the number of cases has gone down, which in a way it's good, because of the lockdown. Because earlier there was no lockdown in the entire state. There was only lockdown in one district, which is East Khasi Hills. So yeah, there is a change perception as far as the person situation is concerned, when it comes to meeting people. And they themselves are wearing masks. They themselves are like very much more careful when it comes to talking or meeting people.
Thank you. Thank you. Sanjana?
Yep. First off, Banshan, thank you so much for sharing your stories. I think the two main lessons I got from hearing your stories was the the detail in which that you were able to share these, the detail and the nuance of these stories was really heartening. But also, I really appreciated the manner in which you connected with your the people you spoke to. Um, I had two questions for you. One is the what has happened to the raw data of all of that you've collected from your field visits in terms of interview recordings, field notes? Has that also been part of the archive, or do
No,
you still have you still okay?
no, I keep it with myself. So basically, there are people. Basically, there are people whom I meet with them. They don't want to record.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't have data with them. I just observe. I just, but I don't give to them. I don't give to the archive because it's uh, people don't want to. I don't know why, but people don't want this data to 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 be shared across. It's just between me and them. I have the I have the what you call I have the recordings with them, and but most of the village people, they don't want to be recorded on phone. Which is unfortunate. I could record few of them, but then as I go, not only I see basically when I visit these villages, not only that I talk to people, but I observe also how their behavior, we discussed earlier about the perception of people who comes from outside the village. I observe how, like, even through their looks also, they will just look at you as to oh, you are from the village, wear mask. They themselves don't wear mask. So that's kind of how this virus also has in itself the kind of behavioral change towards people.
That
Uh,
makes sense.
the other question, you have two questions, right?
Yeah, yeah. I had one more question was how did you explain to the people that you met about this archiving project? What did you tell them about
Okay,
this archive? How did
okay,
you explain archiving to
okay.
them?
So basically, I was telling them that I want to tell your story. I want people to listen to your story in the context. In my case, it's in written form, right? So that people, after 10 years, 20 years, or whatever years you may have, they will be able to read your story. There are too many stories which it's impossible to record everything, which sometimes I don't even need to. Sometimes, so there are names in those in that paper that I wrote. There are names that I have changed it because they didn't want to their names to be there. I've changed it, and I've changed their names. They actually, especially the community leaders, they are very happy that, oh, my village will be read somewhere. Like you guys will be reading, if you have time, you will be reading it. So, oh, my village will be read by somebody who actually don't know what is actually. So when you read, also sometimes maybe you will just Google where is this village exactly, right? If if we have time and all that.
Uh, Thank you. Yeah, definitely. I did take a look at your paper, but thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so we have two more questions. I think Ridhima and then Navneet has put one in the chat. Ridhima, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes,
audible?
certainly.
Okay, great. First of all, thank you, Banshan. I was torn between the fact that whether should I be collecting stories, whether should I be asking people about their grief, or just talk to them about this. Is this even right? And then today I heard your stories, and as Ishita said, it brought literally different perspective from what I had always imagined in terms of pandemic. So that's one. And then the question that I wanted to ask was, did you come across any of the kids? Did you interact with any of the kids? Interviewed them, or just observed them? And if you did, you need to be diligent. You need to be careful when you are interacting with kids versus adults. So if you did, how was that interaction? How did you ask them to share their stories, or share their feelings, whatever they felt, the emotions? How did you do that?
Very interesting. It's also remembering them, like they were actually smiling, like they are more, they want to play actually at that time, because we were like, because the goats and the animals, their cows were there, like, so they, because they are the animals were just having their time, so they want to have their time. So I was just randomly asking them, like, how do you where is your mom, or where do you go to school? So when you ask, suppose they were four kids. I remember there were four kids. When you ask the first kid, the fourth kid will answer. So I mean, they are shy also at the same time, right? The one who is not very shy, they will just answer, or they'll just like, oh, it's like this, and but then when it comes to how well they answer, how well they behave, I think it's too much to expect from such kids in the village, because they hardly meet people from, I mean, they will just interact in their own ways. They don't know exactly as to how to behave, how to, sometimes they will just don't listen to you also. They have their, it's tough. I would say it's tough to engage. But then when you meet those people or those kids who are ever ready to talk, they'll just smile, and then they'll laugh. And what is corona, like virus? It's virus. It's they. I still I think I still have that video. They were happy that I made a video of them. Because they're like, oh, we don't have mobile, or we don't have, we want to be in the video. So they are okay with that. You have one more question, right?
Yes. So Navneet has asked, should we clarify, I think, the points from the last two answers. Are people from village not open to sharing stories digitally? And they are okay if you write about it? Is that how it is, or?
No, not exactly like that. Those people who said that they are okay to be recorded, they are okay with everything actually. But then there are people who wants to share, but they don't want their names to be there. They don't want their names to be written anywhere. Maybe I don't know. Even that this happens with people who are educated also. I thought I was actually talking to a friend. I thought that talking to a friend will be easier, right? That it will be easier, and then there is no rush, there is nothing to worry about. But then she was, I don't know, she was afraid, or she like, she gave some names, she avoid the conversation, like, no. She was thinking that she is not fit to talk about it, or I don't know, like people are not ready. But basically people who have actually experienced a lot of things over the years, they'll just tell, they will not stop telling, they will not stop. Their story is endless, they will keep telling.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Banshan. I think
Anything else?
It was perfectly set for the conversation around curating public experience, I think. And from here, we can take on to building certain exercises. So if you can stay around, if it's convenient, I think it would be very interesting to know your views of exercises we have in mind. Is that convenient for you, or would you want to step out? What would be
I think the line was gone. Let me off the camera. Okay, can you see it again?
Okay, so I was first of all saying thank you. This was very interesting to get us started to think about curating public experience, and now what we want to do for the rest of the 40 minutes is engage in some exercises with the material that the participants have themselves created. So I wanted to know if you would be able to stay around, or would you want to sign off?
It's
We
fine.
could use your
I'll be here.
Okay,
I'll be here.
thank you so much.
It will be much more interesting, actually.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so over to the exercise we have in mind. So I'm again going to make these breakout rooms, which we had tried last time. And we're going to do two things. So we have good 40 minutes. We're going to do 20 minutes, two exercises. And hopefully you all will be able to, I mean, sort of, okay, if we do 15 minutes and then we have a 5-minute conversation. So we'll try and not run over 12, but please be okay with it if you can stay and just hang around and talk with us, so we know what will happen tomorrow evening. So the first exercise, I'm going to share 4 archiving projects. These are pandemic based archiving projects, and same logic. So we want you to respond to those projects in terms of what are they doing as far as curating a public experience is concerned, and what is it that sort of you take out of it in terms of should happen, should not happen. You're most welcome to critically look at the whole angle of or the use of digital space. And I think that's a very important conversation for today, and which we could extend it into tomorrow. Who is this archive really for? Because everything that we're doing currently is so digital, and does it really reach the masses? And how do we make it reach? So not just be critical about it, but if we can also find ways to reach larger audiences. So having said that, I'm going to first put these into the chat so that this time we don't miss out on. So I'm going to go group wise, and then you just remember that whenever you get into your group that you are looking at this website or this archive. So ideally, one of you will need to become a moderator, sort of take everyone through the different aspects of these projects. So if you can open these links, in the meanwhile, I'm going to make 4 groups, and you will suddenly transcend into another space. And we'll keep it to, as we said, 15 minutes. Okay, I think it's going to be 3 groups. Let's see. And we'll keep one for later. Okay, I think everyone is back. I think 16 should be the right number, or 4 and 12. Yeah, I guess so. Is Lavanya here? Okay. All right. So it's very interesting to like send people away and then call them back. This is new form of abuse of power. So I've started enjoying this. Okay. So should we start with group 1? If you can tell us, whoever comes to 1 person, 2 people, what the archive was about, and what your reactions individually or collectively were. Group 1 would be Debankita, Namita, Navneet, and Sanjana.
I think I'll just explain what the archive was about, and I think Navneet Debankita and Amita will share their thoughts, if that's all right. So we had the Pandemic Soundscape Archive, which is an archive of soundscapes and videoscapes, mostly from South Korea. So it's an archive that has captured like the urban environment, looking just during the pandemic through both sound and videoscapes. Although the soundscapes, even though they're called soundscapes, they do have a little bit of they do have a short clipping attached to them, and while the videoscapes are short videos. So yeah, I think uh, my teammates will share their thoughts on this archive. Yeah.
So while I was going through these videos, there were just a couple of videos that I could go through. So one thing that I noticed about these video and sound put together was that although there is some sort of activity happening, there might not be any sort of interaction that might be happening in any of these. So this has brought us to a limited human interaction and on the public space front. And then the whole emptiness of it, they didn't feel like, people were not, they were not existing. People might have been there around, but there was a sort of eerie emptiness that surrounded these videos. So that was my one takeaway from this, and the fact that all of this during the discussion, there was this point that came up that there is a resistance to COVID-19 by not coming out, and probably these by not coming out in the public, and probably these sounds are are a way to convey what is actually happening. So yeah, that was what my observation was, and that we although we couldn't find humans, there was environmentally there were a lot of things taking place, like some birds that we thought were not they didn't exist, or there were no, we couldn't hear birds in a lot of cities. We were finally getting to hear birds and be more closer to the environment around us.
Thank you, Namita. Debankita, Navneet, do you want to add anything? Yes, Debankita, please.
Yes. So what I observed, like, and shared also in the breakout room, that um the deserted and emptied streets, like that became a site of resistance against the chaos caused by the pandemic, and how the like superficial markets and capitalist world, like the cities were shown in the video, how the sound and the visuals have reclaimed, like how the sound of birds, sound of wind, sound of like just 2 to 3 vehicles have reclaimed this space, like that humans had captured earlier. So how I see this as a sight and sound of resistance against the chaos. So yeah, that's it. And
Oh,
I
interesting.
also resonate with the thought of like emptiness, but not in the streets, but in our mind. And also how virtual world became important for us humans. Now we are seeing these, like it sort of took a turn around, and now we are seeing these empty roads and like hearing the soundscape of the city through the digital platform. So that's what I wanted to say. Like, if I made sense, Ishita, like I wanted to explain it better, but the turn, and I wanted to like share about the turn. Yeah.
No, yes, sorry. Whenever anybody feels I'm speaking over you, it's simply because there is still a time lag in my internet. But yes, Debankita, we got a sense of what you're trying to say, and I think it's very interesting, this contrasting use of the word emptiness that archive sort of introduces. I think Yeah, and I think that that's true for so many of us. Some felt airy about it, some felt that, okay, the environment and nature is reclaiming the space that belongs to them. And I heard a lot of people saying, yeah, humans needed to be taught to be put, we were too much rumbling around. Yeah, that's also a true perspective. Over to group two. In the meanwhile, sorry, Banshan, do you want to add your thoughts about the first archive in case you had any? Because I'm just realizing you're talking about the city and its streets. The village would have been different.
Yes. So when I look at these pictures, even the videos also, the first word which came to my mind is silence. It's all that silence, which looks scary because in the city, silence does not exist, right? I mean, in such a big city. So there is that's the word which come to my mind, and also I could see that there is no. I mean, there is a complete opposite to what it usually happened. So what usually happened was like you will hear the sound of the cars, sound of people shouting, the sound of people walking, but here there it's just the opposite of what is during the normal time. So I would put it this way: this is the new normal of how the city looks like. That's what I wanted to say.
True, that's so true. Yes, I think both will realize what the
I
city
think
as an image is in our forms, in our heads, and also this is how a city could look, and that's so true. Yeah, the visual power of it. Thank you. Over to group two. I think you were saying something. Sorry. So group two is Mithul, Riddhima,
No, I think
Saloni, and
you
Vallabh.
completely slipped my mind. We were group two, but Riddhima, you were sharing something. Please go ahead. I'll follow.
Thank you. No, I was just about to say that since you had looked at the website, so you can provide your insights on the website, and then the rest of us can just, go across and share our experience.
Okay. So we barely got time to discuss it in the group. I think we were all very engrossed in just exploring the website. The archive was called Prison Pandemic, and this was a digital archive preserving stories of people incarcerated in California prisons, their family, people who were employed there. And I think what my instinct immediately led me to ask the questions of who is doing this, how is it accessible, how can people contribute, and what is happening once the stories are collected, right? The first response was also this is very important because in a way this is the voices of the minorities which probably might not be heard unless there's intervention. And but at the same time, I needed to ask who are these people who are intervening, what are they doing with it, and I don't know. That question I think is also equally important, other than appreciating what they've been doing. So I saw these were the criminology, law and society department and sociology department faculties and students from the University of California. The content they were collecting through three sources. There was the option of calling the hotline, they were accepting posts, and there was an option at the website to submit their stories. One thing I noticed was they were editing the content, but the good thing was they also had links to the entire content. So there's this aspect of someone else curating what is important from that person's story is questionable, but at the same time, if I was relieved to see that there is the entire content available if someone else wants to listen to it in more detail. And yeah, I think I didn't get a chance to listen to any of it or read any of it, but this was what I did. And yes, over to Ridhima, Pallavi, and Salon.
Um, should I? So I'll just add a point. So I was reading through one story where they said, where it's written, "I want to." It hurts basically. So in that, he's telling about how they are not allowed to meet the prisoners narrating how they are not allowed to meet the family, but even in a prison in the US, it's difficult for them to arrange video calls or conferences for these people. And I was just wondering that, like how many, the technological part, like the technological aspects have affected so many people. Like they've not seen, I mean, it was just narrating it was a narration from the US, but I could connect to it in India as well because there are so many people in the villages who are facing similar kind of atrocities or whatever. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it was just one thought. Like I was very engrossed in reading that one particular story, I think. So yeah. Saloni, do you want to?
Yeah, I had just one point to add that the good part, like the one thing that I really liked about the website was that they had narration as well as the audio recording side by side. So even though like the names or the names of the prisoner, it was not revealed or what they looked like, so we did not have any image of them, but through their voice and through the way that they've written, their personality and their character kind of came through. So it like it's easier to connect with the person you're listening to and you're reading to. Yeah. Ridhima?
Yeah, I'll just kind of add on this alone, maybe pile it on. It's just, I was comparing it with the session we had with Rebecca, where we were, reading these stories. And then in here we have these oral histories recorded. So, the beauty of oral histories is how they are, in their voice we can feel the fear. They're scared about the unprecedented times, and then the pauses, the moment where they're, almost about to break down, but they're controlling. So all of those emotions are kind of escalated when you look at a visual, or you just hear a story, versus how when you read something that's written, as Saloni said, it brings out the character. Yeah, so that should be good.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very helpful that you were able to see that archive. At least I'm speaking from my perspective, beyond the context, which is that's prison and prison mates, and in the and also a certain geography or a certain state only. So I think that's quite intriguing to me that suddenly it's an archive of people, and we all connect. I think what Rebecca said, that we are into this together, and we started seeing it for what it was. And I'm assuming that once you could go deeper into the stories, there might be more identification of context, because one home to the other and one place to the other, we might be able to see nuances for which of us you would need more time. And could such an archive allow for immersed, elongated experiences is something that one could keep in mind. Banshan, do you want to add any thoughts to this?
I want to add thoughts on there is one, let me check. I think I can't locate now. I saw the screenshots, the one with screenshots. My first observation was the cry for help. So at the same time, I felt that there's something which us that we could help during the pandemic is share the information, right? So on that particular side, I could see that people are helping just by sharing one message will help save life, right? Sharing not the fake ones, but at least the verified ones. So that's what I wanted to say on that particular the one which it's all their screenshots. So these will be memories. I think when we look back, maybe 10 years or 30 years, whatever. So these are the kind of memories that yes, we have had those times where people cry for help, even through WhatsApp or even through Twitter or even Instagram as well. I could see so many people. Thank you.
Banshan, may I clarify which website are you referring to? Because I think we are talking about.
Wait, okay. I think the third one. I think.
I thought so. So we were talking about the second one, but I think it's
the second one regarding prisoner. I listened a bit about the prisoners. You see, listening to the person who actually face such problem is something else, right? I mean, you hear the story, like the first-hand story, which makes you feel that as if you could help him in some way, or if you could help them in some way. I think it would have been much more worse for them because normally they are only in the situation where it's not a house, right? And pandemic has made even them worse than anyone could actually imagine. So I think I'm touched with these kind of stories. I mean, it's interesting also that you stories of pandemic from the prison. It's something I think I've seen in the news, but to actually thought about them, it's something else. Thanks for bringing this up. I think I'll read them more after this.
Yeah, I was quite amused. I have not been able to go through all of them, but I did like that focus of the context and also thinking of all humans as humans in this scenario. And it also relates to so much that's happening in our prisons currently with a lot of protest victims who have been basically jailed. So I think it was very important sort of for me to connect and bring it into discussion. And hence I said that the context of them being in prison is equally going to be important when we read into these stories and what it means to be there. Yes, okay. So over to, I think Banshan has also put a context to group 3. So group 3, could you take over and share your thoughts?
Palak, do you want to?
No, Aparna, go ahead.
No, do you want to? I meant. I think
no, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I can only give fragmented information because all of us were quite overwhelmed by what we saw on that particular archive. Both there was a sense of inaccessibility that I felt, both in terms of the way the content was organized, mapped, but also in terms of a very heavy discipline influence, perhaps what seemed like, coming from an architecture point of view, it seemed like an archive that was not very accessible to me. I think there was also a general sense of overwhelming feeling overwhelmed, but also by the words, and Palak mentioned the way they were placed in terms of their font size or how they appear in clusters and so on. Have I covered? If I've missed anything, please take it from there.
Yeah.
May I add? Sorry.
Yeah, Antigua.
Yeah, so just to give a context, so this archive has been created by the School of Environment and Architecture Mumbai, and there's students from there. And so what they have done with the website is they've given an online exhibition where if you click onto the online exhibition, you go into different spheres which are revolving around. You can just click on one sphere and then it will open a new page, which is uh, wherein it's like an architecturally created different stories and images are placed. And another element of the website is the glossary section where they've given different stories uh, where each person has contributed, and that's where Banshan had mentioned about the app screen time, where a person has given an image of the different apps they have been using and the screen time, um, uh, which the I mean it's a mobile. On the mobile you can just see how much time you spent on each app, so that timeline they've given. um, regarding the, like, when we were discussing about the online exhibition, yeah, we were just having this feeling of overwhelming because it's a bit abstract, and they've concentrated on the conceptual categories or the theoretical um, books or arguments that they want to explore, I guess. So in that sense, um, accessibility is a bit of a question, like how much accessible it is to everybody in that sense. Yeah, Palak, if you like.
Yeah, I think Aparna and Ansi have kind of encapsulated the whole experience, and I would just like summarize it a little bit. I think it was more like a confusing and conflicting kind of environment that they could create with this kind of, like, display, and particularly from the visual point of view, as Aparna also mentioned, the fonts and the texts were like overwhelming in that sense. Also, the way it is designed and the mapping of each experience is not vertically how you're used to scrolling, right? Like a user experience is like you're going from top to bottom. Here you're going horizontally, and also vertically. So you just, like, and this is happening with each of their sphered stories. You just and each of the visual, like, language in terms of even colors is different for each of the stories. So one, you are just like delving deeper into, like, these individual, like, silos that which is also representative of the condition that we are all currently in pandemic. Like, you're in silos and then collectively you're together in this. So they have somehow, I feel, captured the conflict and the confusion and the silo kind of, like, thing prevalent with all of us and replicated it digitally. But probably a critique would be that the mapping or the index, there is no index to it. So I don't know what, like, how to go about it and how to experience this, as, like, to make sense of it. I will have to spend a lot of time to understand, okay, like, because there are no clear buckets or categories, which is interesting also, like, because it's unboxed in that way. But I think, like, if they would have put in, like, some kind of an index structure, it would have helped me, like, because in 15 minutes probably it's like, a longer exercise. So that's essentially, like, my addition.
Thank you. At least I personally did find it confusing as well. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has a different opinion, but I also, and at least for even a prolonged, because for me it was not a 15-minute exercise, and I do share, and these are some of the projects while going through and doing the research along with the workshop is what raises the question that who are we building this archive for? I think because until now, for the 3 sessions, we have spoken a lot about our experiences or our family or community's experiences. We've spoken about the form that we will work with. We've spoken about how it needs to be done. And I think the larger question sort of for an archive or any project which has a public interface, the question is, who is it really for? And for me, COVID glossary really put it right in my face. saying that even as a person from a creative field who has certain sense of cognitive skills, I'm finding it very difficult to understand what are they doing and why are they doing it. But then it was also interesting because I think this habit of justification, where one was like, oh, that's, the chaos that we were in is what this website is perhaps translating, or this archive is perhaps translating it for us. So, I mean, I did that kind of a justification. I mean, there was a talk by them, but couldn't attend it. So I can obviously sort of connect with it. Anybody else has a different opinion about the same website or the same archive, or it raises any questions, happy to sort of... I think Navneet is saying, yes, initially very confusing, but if one gets deeper and good amount of time is spent over it, it also looks addictive. Yes, it sort of takes you from one thing to the other, and it is very intriguing. Yes, and I think, but also what it does is sort of finally what I could conclude is also the need to put in that kind of an energy or thought into what is the experience that you want to deliver. It seems like that is the thought that they have very strongly worked upon. Again, these are my understandings and readings. Navneet has also answered for the Bankita's question that she doesn't have anything else to add. Anybody else wants to add anything for sites 1 to 3 before I quickly go over site 4, just so that I just feel that it might cover the diversity that one could think about. Anyone, anything? So this is a very interesting, different take. And why I'm saying interesting is because of the fact that they have, as an archive, thought about both possibilities, the academic and the creative. And what it means is there is an angle to personal research. They are a team of academicians and researchers who have looked back at similar situations from the past, whether it's Bombay plague or Spanish flu. And they have thus had their own research methodology and come up with academic outputs, which is, so if you click on these, you can go into these PDFs, they sort of explain that subject which has been picked up. And I think it also still leaves room for more such academic research to be archived. And also what they have is a space for creative. So it's almost like, covering both sides of the coin. And then and again, it's an open call, so you can submit your work. I think what I would question is, I would want to know what are their requirements, which I didn't find. But it's nice to know that it's open-ended. And then these stories, they're coming from people from a personal space, so they have very interesting titles. And I think currently they have been able to put it under a certain thematic or at least identification of forms. And I'm hoping that more such things will come to them and they'll be able to build under that. And then, of course, there's the contact. They're calling it archiving the times, as in looking at the larger scene. Okay, so I'm assuming that Banshan is not here. Navneet is saying G3 link also shows how tech something could be and how things are transiting on archive front. Yes, from the traditional forms to current times. Even yesterday's session of Millie was about it. True. Okay, so last 5 minutes, I promise. I think the second exercise will not be possible, but anyways, it was going to be continued into into your own personal spaces. So perhaps we can talk about that. And I think Navneet's last comment joins us joins the dot. Okay, thank you everyone. See you. Bye.